Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is actually quite late at night, Saturday night, September the 20th, 2014. I hope everybody has had a excellent week. I have had a very exhausting week, mentally exhausting. I'll be perfectly honest, there's all kinds of things I wanted to record today, and I ended up not doing any of it. I've actually been procrastinating a little bit even when it comes to recording this episode of Cube Ramblings, just because, not because of any of the content of it or anything like that. It's just my brain is not at full capacity, and hasn't been for quite a few days, or at least most recent memory anyway. So if I sound slightly tired or otherwise, rest assured I am quite happy, just mentally weird right now. More mentally weird than I usually am. That being said, I have gathered up, because I have procrastinated so long today, I have had more opportunity to gather up some news items and other topics to discuss this week. Before I begin, though, I wanted to sort of follow up on my thoughts on the shape of Cube Ramblings to come, and I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm not going to change anything. I still enjoy Cube World. As far as what are my objectives in Cube World right now, really my last objective now is to find the one elusive biome that I have not found yet, the fire biome. Once I've found that, I'll keep on traveling. I think I've pretty much turned this into the Cube World equivalent of a Farlands or Bust, I think. But actually, once I find that biome, then I will probably just set off in one direction and just, well, maybe not one direction, but I'll set off in a few different directions and just keep it on and see how infinite this world actually is. There have been no updates that I am aware of as far as Cube World is concerned. It's gone silent again, as tends to be the case. Every time there's like a little inkling of some kind of announcement, we get a lot of good, I guess, we get a lot of hype around it. Whether or not it's good or not is another question. But then it dies down, because it's as I said months ago when this was, all the new changes were announced, and the new video came out, it looked to me like it was going to be several months away before we got anything related to that. If anything, Wale appears to be very cautious in releasing code, making sure that it's as bug-free as possible, and that it doesn't get released until he's absolutely positively happy with it. So that is the case. That has always been the case, from what I can tell. So we'll keep on keeping on. The changes that have been announced are kind of world changing in that the way they do the quests and everything. So I will probably, if that release ever, when that release materializes, probably start a new game. As you can see, I'm already at level 130, 130 Ranger. There's a part of me that wants to keep on doing that just to see the ridiculousness of getting up to these levels. In fact, what drives me crazy about this a little bit is that I have been carrying around a formula for a weapon. I believe it was a weapon that was power 100. I bought that, I think, way back from a merchant in like the first biome I was in, and I bought it for, I think I was only level 5 at the time or something like that. It must have been like episode 2 or something of this Let's Play. or well, what was a Let's Play, and I have been leveling and leveling and leveling, and my power level has not gone up at all. I have all these like higher powered things that I want to eventually get to, and I can't get past like power level 86 or so. So I'm trying. I'm hoping at some point I figure out whatever magical thing I need to do to to get my power level up higher and actually be able to utilize some of those other trinkets that I have picked up that I can't play with yet. Or at least get even a more even more OP bow would be nice. But anyway, that catches you up with Cube World. For those who may have not been around long enough, this is basically this started out as just a Let's Play of Cube World, and then I quickly came to the conclusion that there wasn't a whole lot for me to talk about as far as topics go, or as far as making it entertaining is concerned, because there's a lot of walking, a lot of traveling. There's action along the way, but there's still all that downtime. And I was, at first I was like, oh, I'll just cut out all the stuff like I normally do in a Let's Play and all that stuff. But it was quickly getting repetitive to watch. This is the weird thing that about Cube World as it stands right now, is it's a heck of a lot of fun to play. Even though it's repetitive, it's still very fun to play. Not very fun to watch, really, unless you have something else going for you. It's kind of like, in many respects, it's kind of like playing Minecraft as an adventure game and not as a building game, right? It's like, after a while it gets a little bit repetitive to watch, but it's still a hell of a lot of fun to do. It's just not very interesting to look at. And this is very much falls into that same category. So it originally started out as a Let's Play, and then I decided that I still enjoy the game, still want to play the game, still want to continue doing what I'm doing, but I need to start having topics to discuss. And so I ended up just turning it into a podcast like this, which I don't know. I mean, it's more like a vodcast, I guess, because even though you're hearing my voice, you're also hearing the game sounds, which one of the nice things about Cube World is that there's not a whole lot of sounds in it. There's no music at all yet, so it doesn't sort of distract you in that regard. There's not just random music playing while I'm saying stuff. But at the same time, it does, every so often, when getting into a boss battle or something, you can hear a lot of the repetitive, bleeps and bloops that come out. So there's the way I look at it is there's something to look at if you want to look at it, and there's also mostly kind of something to listen to, namely me ramble on about anything and everything, usually for about an hour. Although I was at one point in time actually trying to get it down to like a half an hour, and then I just gave up. It's like, you know what? I'm just gonna. It's a rambling series. It might as well be a rambling series. It might as well be an hour long, an hour long ramble about rambling. So that is the evolution of this series thus far. So let's while we're doing it. Oh, and usually I try to keep the topic around games and my YouTube channel and all that stuff. So that's usually how I try to keep it. That being said, there's, recently as I've been doing stuff on the channel, I realized that Minecraft is a game that I also enjoy playing, but it's a game that for it to be enjoyable to watch, you either have to be playing with somebody else, or you have to be a really good builder, or you have to be engaging in some way, shape, or form. And I am none of those, generally speaking. It's very hard for me to do co-ops or collabs with people because my hours are just atrocious. that being said, occasionally I can get one in there, but it's usually very, very difficult. And I can't really build for anything. And as far as engaging goes, not so much. I've been trying to in my Minecraft series, various Minecraft series. I've been trying to turn them into sort of a little bit more of a, I guess more of a podcast spin on them. Have them be a little bit more talky. I originally started out with that idea, and then as the Cube Ramblings thing took hold, I was like, it's very hard to come up with topics, very, very hard, and I invariably am going to end up repeating myself from one to the next. So I sort of like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if that's a sustainable thing where I could always be sort of talky, but I'm going to try as much as I can from time to time. I might, instead of talking about, game stuff in LCM, my LCM videos or any of my Minecraft videos, maybe I'll talk about, I don't know, sci-fi stuff or something. Who knows? Some classic sci-fi. Just interject that into various things. So that's kind of what I was going with there. That's why my last LCM episode was like an hour long, because I decided I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna ramble about things that I. Unfortunately, it was a topic that I already discussed in the last Cube Ramblings, which is the Mojang Microsoft buyout. But by then, it had already been announced as a thing, and I thought, well, since it's now a thing, I might as well just reiterate a lot of stuff that I talked about, and hopefully interject some other interesting viewpoints into it, maybe or not, who knows. Anywho, let's get to some of the news topics that I have picked out here. So I have been I'll start out with Divinity Original Sin. You guys know that I have been playing the heck out of that game. It has been the topic of my live streams, my Friday live streams, for the last actually 6 weeks, because I have six, believe it or not, 6 3-hour sessions recorded of that game. In fact, I think every session's been about 3 hours or more. In fact, last night when I was recording, I said, I'm just going to make this one like a 2-hour thing, and then I ended up making a bunch of progress. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep playing for a little bit longer. So I have a ridiculous amount of footage recorded for that, which is why if you've been watching it, if you've been missing the live streams and you've been watching it on the edited versions on YouTube, that's why I've been editing so much out of it, because there is a lot of downtime when I'm just walking between things or trying to figure things out and failing to figure things out. So it's there's 2 mindsets that I can see. There are people who tune into live streams and just have them sort of playing in the background as just kind of a, hey, every so often maybe I'll jump over and interact and that kind of thing. And then there are those that sort of prefer the I want something from my eyes. I don't necessarily want something from my ears. I want something from my eyes. So they go to YouTube and they see, these edited things that are down to like half-hour, morsels that they can, dig into. So hopefully I am appeasing both sides of that. The sound has not been great in the episodes on YouTube. That's because of how it was recorded. OBS does not record games. Does not record microphone sounds in a separate stream from the game sounds. And so when I go to edit the video, my voice and the game audio are all on the same track, and I can't separate them out. I've tried. I've pulled things out in Audacity. In fact, I've been doing that. Pull them out in Audacity, try to do some manipulations on it. I can get it to where my voice is not in there almost, except for like a low rumble. But I can't get the opposite to happen where it's just my voice and not the game audio, where I could just extract that out and then do my manipulations on that like I do with a normal recording like this, where I have separate streams and I can just, clean up my audio and get rid of some of the background noise and generally speaking, just, put a good spin on it so that, equalize it a little bit, normalize it a little bit here and there. That kind of thing. Very hard to do when you don't have those things as separate streams. That said, as of recently, I think the last three sessions, were the last three? Yeah, I think the last 3 sessions, I've been using this sort of weird setup here where I've been actually plugging my, I've been recording my microphone audio like I normally do for a Let's Play, which means I'm doing it on my separate Linux machine and I'm just, sort of recording it and doing all the cleanup that way. It's in a separate thread or a separate stream. And then, of course, my Linux machine is not the thing that's streaming. It's my PC. So I've plugged in the headphone jack for my microphone into the microphone jack of my PC, to thusly split my voice between the two, which means that the people on the live stream are hearing a lower quality version of my voice, but they're hearing the right quality sound as far as the gameplay goes. Now I'm still recording that through OBS, which means OBS is still recording my voice along with the gameplay audio. But I'm hoping, and I haven't gotten to that section yet, so I'm hoping that if I align everything properly, because I've done this before in the past with some of the other videos I've done, like the Bomb Blitz video that I did, and a few other things. If I align them properly, you will hear it properly. You won't hear the other track. You'll hear the other track with the game's audio, but you won't hear my voice necessarily on that track because it'll be completely in sync with my actual voice on the other track, which is a cleaner version of it. And it seems to me like, from at least my untrained ear, that it comes out okay and you don't hear anything weird or wonky. You hear the actual higher quality sound and not the lower quality one. So hopefully all that will work out. I haven't even gotten that far yet. We're literally, I've just, with the last episode that went out, just gotten into session 2, which is another 3-hour session. I have a feeling session 2 and a little bit of session 3, I didn't get really too much, I didn't make too much progress. So I have a feeling I'm going to be slashing out, I've already slashed out about an hour of footage of that. Probably slash out a bunch more as I go. So I'll be, hopefully we'll be getting to the part where I have better audio sooner rather than later, but we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be, we're in for it for the long haul. So, and I'm by no means, I don't even think I'm a quarter of the way through the game, and I'm 6 sessions in of 3 hours each. So it's quite a nice game, quite a long game. Spend most of my time just trying to travel between places, which kind of sucks. There's one bit of feedback I'd have for Larian Studios. It's you really gotta improve the running mechanics because it is very slow. You've got this huge world, and it takes forever and a day just to get through various pieces. Even though they've got waypoint portals all around the world, there's still a lot of walking in between, the waypoint portal and where you want to go in the game. So I kind of wish that they would improve that mechanic a little bit. It's a bit slow getting around the place. That said, the new piece of news came out for them this week. There is some new free DLC that has been released or is in the process of being released for Divinity Original Sin. They've added 2 new NPCs that you can join your party. One is a thief named Bear Daughter? Bear Daughter, I think is how you pronounce it. It's not written that way, but it's sort of pronounced that way from what I could tell from the video. And the other one is Wolfram? Question mark? I think that was the name of him. And he is a bard, I believe. Some semblance of that, I think. But they each bring a different backstory into the game and a different different class, obviously. So now you can have an even more balanced party than what you currently have. So that is fantastic. They've also improved. They're improving some of the animations, some of the visual effects, the magical effects are being improved, and some of the audio. It looks like from their Kickstarter update video that they're going to be adding some new dungeons eventually. I don't know if it's for this DLC or an upcoming one, probably an upcoming one. And I believe they're adding new backstory, obviously, for the new characters and new quests that go along with that. I think one of the characters, the female character, the thief character, is searching for her mentor or teacher, and because he went missing, so that sort of opens up a whole new quest tree and everything else. Also, they have improved upon the co-op dialogue tree. So the way I'm playing the game in single player, so I actually control both characters as far as dialogue goes. So sometimes the characters will banter between each other, and you can actually make the characters disagree with one another, and they'll get different attributes based upon whether or not they agreed or disagreed with one another. And then sometimes you can actually have your characters disagree on how to handle another NPC, and then if you have to, you go into a game of rock, paper, scissors, and whoever wins that gets to actually do the dialogue option. That is mostly, in single player, it's kind of funny, but it's interesting, but it works the very same way. It's really geared towards the co-op, where it's you and somebody else on the internet, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do as far as, you disagree on how on what path should be taken, and it's sort of built into the game that disagreement is part of the game, and the game relishes in it almost. One of the downfalls of the game up to this point has been, if you are the co-op character and one of your partner in crime is initiating a dialogue and they're just talking to this NPC, you as the other partner couldn't see their dialogue and what choices they were being made or anything else. All you could see is the dialogue that was being said, but it was just little pop-up bubbles above their heads, and it's hard to, if you're not on the same screen as them, you can't see that and all that thing. So they're adding, as part of the DLC, a listen in option where you can listen in on a conversation even if you're not on the same screen as your partner, and see all the dialogue options that they were presented with, and see the options that they're selecting. And then if you happen to be standing next to them and the NPC then addresses you, you will then become the active participant in the dialogue, and so on and so forth. So very seamless thing, a very good improvement. You can also see the history if you listen in on an NPC, if you listen in on your co-op partners and conversation well after the fact that they started it, you can still see the history. You can scroll up and see all the history of what they said up to that point. So very good changes, very, very nice. I'll link you to the I believe it's a Polygon article discussing it, as long that also embeds the video. I believe it was on Polygon. Was it? Looking through my stuff and still trying to play. Yeah, well, regardless, it'll be there. It'll be there in a link. I can't see it right now. I keep glancing over really fast and glancing back at the screen. I can't really. Oh, it's on Rock Paper Shotgun. Sorry, there we go. Yeah, I will link you to that. And then that brings us to sort of an overarching theme that has happened this week and is begun to happen in general, with a lot of these indie games and Kickstarter games and non-Kickstarter games and so on and so forth. And I'll start off by saying that we're getting a lot more of these games that were that were crowdfunded in some way, shape, or form, be it early access or Kickstarter. And back in the heyday of all that crowdfunding stuff, and we're starting to see the cracks in the foundation, cracks that we knew would be there. We didn't see them initially, and now it's starting to come. Now it's starting to come full circle. And there's been a bunch of projects that have been canceled or otherwise not really delivering on a lot of their promises. And we've seen a couple examples of them this week in particular. So, first of all is Neil Stephenson's CLANG. That was a game that was kickstarted for $526,000. It was just below Yog Ventures as far as kickstarting, how much money they raised on Kickstarter. It was put on hold, I think last year, or at least, I think it was last year. It was put on hold. And then we just recently got word this week that it has been canceled. Downright canceled. The funny thing about it was put on hold, and then right after being put on hold, it got greenlit on Steam. And now it's been greenlit on Steam. It's all there, and I don't think it's been in the early access program. I don't know if it has or not, but I don't think it's been in the early access program. I think it was just greenlit. It was just in that limbo of being greenlit and not yet being available. And now it's just been downright canceled. The game itself was supposed to be a motion controlled sword fighting game, which is fantastic. A fantastic idea. I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. I have a PS3, and I have only one game for it. It's the game that came with the PS3. It was I got the PS3 Slim Move Edition, which was like it came with the motion controlled controllers, and they look like wands, kind of weird looking. And I only have the one game that came with it, which was the I think it was PS3 Sports, some kind of sports title thing, where it had several different games on it that took advantage of the Move controllers. And one of the ones on it that just kept having me play over and over again was a series of mini games. And the one mini game that I kept coming back to was a sword fighting game on there. And this, by the way, came with the PS3 Slim that I bought. This came with the motion controllers. And it was fantastic. It was, you have the one controller in your left hand you could use as a shield, you could block, and then the controller in your right hand was the wand. You swing that around a certain way, and the PS3's camera would pick it up, and your character would swing your sword, and then you fought against AI characters. It was fantastic. I played the heck out of it. I was getting a nice workout on it. And then I promptly stopped because the game freaking cheats. It's a freaking cheating game. It is a cheating bastard of a game. Because you get to, I got to one of the later levels, and it was just impossible. It was like, there's no way that you could swing your arm that fast to to block things and do that. It was just ridiculous. It was completely ridiculous. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh, that's physical manifestation of mental problems right there. I'm not actually tired. I'm not actually physically tired. I am just mentally tired, and it's rearing its ugly head as a physical yawn here. So the idea has been done, and it was actually a pretty cool game. But this game was going to be entirely based on just that mechanic, just the, physically moving your arms and swinging your arms around and having it translate to the game and be a sword fighting game. But great, it's awesome. It's one of the few games that I would actually say is, I would actually get up and do. I would actually stand up and play a game like that. I would not do like Wii Sports or anything like that. I've done that once and never again. But this would be something I would do repeatedly. But that is but a pipe dream. They went through all their money, and there's really nothing to show for it. In fact, from what I gather from the article, not only did they blow through all $526,000 that they did on Kickstarter, but that wasn't enough money to make the game that they wanted to make. They had additional investment that they went through, including Neil Stephenson's himself. For some reason, that is hard to say. Neil Stephenson himself had put in money as well, and that is all burned through. So that has ceased to be. That will be no more. In addition to that, we get word that Double Fine, Spacebase DF-9. This was not a Kickstarter project. This was just a crowdfunded project. It came as part of their. They had some sort of brain. I forget what they called it. It was a brainstorming session that they publicly did. I think it was on, like, they live streamed it or something like that, and then a bunch of video game ideas. This is Double Fine, by the way. Double Fine did this. A bunch of video game ideas came out of it, and they started working on a few of them. They had the community actually vote on the ones, and then they worked on the ones that the community thought were fantastic. And one of those was called Spacebase DF-9. And I actually talked a little bit about Spacebase DF-9 before, although I don't know if I went into any detail about it because there wasn't a whole lot of detail to go into. It was just basically a space station building game simulator thing, where it was basically, the developers themselves have said this. The name itself explains what they were going for. So DF in the name means Dwarf Fortress. They were trying for a graphical version of Dwarf Fortress, which, hey, you know what? I got no problem with that. That's awesome. The 9 was a play on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So namely, it was a television series based on a space station. This was going to be based on a space station. That's about as tenuous a relationship as you can get, but that's that is their explanation on their website. That's how the name came about, and that's what they were going for. They were going for that as the game. They had a ton of things that they had promised that they wanted to do. I don't have the list because unfortunately they have deleted it. So I wanted to link you to a list of it, but it is. I would have to link you to the Wayback Machine, I think, in order to find it, or at least Google Image Cache. And I have not done my research there to find it. I don't know what to look for, to be honest with you. So that is what it is. So that what they're doing with this is they're saying, Double Fine is saying they're going to release that they've canceled additional work on it, and by that I mean they're going to release a 1.0 version that is pretty much what they already have as far as the alpha version goes right now. So yes, they're making a jump from alpha to version 1.0, which is boggling my mind and should boggle everybody's mind, honestly, because that is a huge leap. That is we're not even going to bother anymore. So they've decided that they don't want to do any more work on it. They're going to do a little bit of work as far as finishing up the last few bits and bobs that they have in flux right now, and then that's it. They're going to release it. They're going to release 1.0. It should be noted that this is crowdfunded, which means it's on Steam Early Access, and I believe you've been able to pre-order it from their website as well. So they have taken money, and they have used that money. This is Double Fine. Double Fine actually has a fairly good reputation in the industry, and they have decided to release something that is not anything anybody wanted or was promised, and basically washing their hands of it. They say they'll be around to provide some fixes here and there, which I can take them on their word for that. But that's, you're not gonna fix something that is incomplete in the first place. That's kind of a weird thing to do. In addition to releasing the 1.0, they say a few weeks or a month or so after they've released the 1.0 version, they are going to release the full source code to the community to make mods for. Now, I don't know what license agreement they're going to put on that code base. That is what kind of interests me the most, because if they say, okay, here it is under a GPL or something like that, then that pretty much precludes anyone from selling anything that they want on it. They might have some kind of custom license that they've put together. Why is this? Where is the innkeeper at here? Why was that door open? This is a brand new biome. I don't know why this door is open and stuff. I have not been here before. What is going on here? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! What the hell? Oh, there's a goblin in here? What is going on here? That is really strange. The innkeeper was turned into a goblin? Holy crap. That is the first time I've ever seen that happen. And I need some health here. Let's I guess the innkeeper's like, all right, just go ahead and sleep on your own dime. Wow, that's weird. I really do, but I wanna reset the time. That's really why I wanted to talk to the innkeeper, but he's not here. That's strange. I don't know why this door is open or anything. Why there was a random goblin in there. Both doors are open. I have never been in this biome before, so that is extremely strange. Is there another? I need another innkeeper around here. Oh, here we go. This is good. All right. Hopefully this door's not open, so hopefully there's an innkeeper in here. Yep, there is. All right. Crisis averted. Wow, that was really strange. That was really, really strange. All right, so back to the topic at hand. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, so Spacebase DF-9, they're going to release this source code, the Lua source code, which I have my own thoughts about what is appropriate to do as far as open source projects go. And there's this little joke I have with myself. I joke with myself sometimes, and the joke I have with myself is that if you want to send out code to die, you want to start an open source project, and you want to make sure that nobody wants to participate in it. You write it in a language that nobody wants to use. So you do something like, hey, I wrote this game in Haskell. Here, open source community. go and mod it. And nobody in their right mind is going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm not going to learn Haskell for this. Are you kidding me? And I feel the same way about Lua. I'm like, yeah, we could have written a game in, C# or some other modern language, but instead we wrote it in some throwaway scripting language that kind of looks like C but isn't, and is probably broken in many different ways. And yeah, we're just going to release that. Here, look, we've got an open source project. See, we like the community. We released all this code. We released it in brainfuck, but we released this code. That would be the ultimate troll, right? It's like, hey, yeah, we're this is what I imagine will happen if Microsoft releases the Minecraft source code and says, here, modders, have it. I have a feeling before they do that, they're just going to convert it all from Java to like brainfuck or COBOL or something that very few people have any training in. They're going to say, okay, here you go. Here's the source code. Have fun. See, we like the open source community. We contribute to the open source community. And there'll just be people looking at the code like, what the hell is going on here? I am not going to learn this just to mod something. Are you kidding me? That's my running joke for myself. I'm sure there's people kind of scratching their head right now going, I don't get it. And that's fine. That's totally fine, because it's a programmer joke. Anywho, so yeah, that's the state of Spacebase DF-9. I don't know. I have not contributed to Spacebase DF-9 because I've kept my eye on it, and I'm like, oh, I'll keep an eye on it. I'll see what it says. I'll see what it looks like. And then maybe I'll let it grow a little bit longer, grow a little bit more before I actually give it some money, because there was hardly anything, to show for what they were promising. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's let this cook for a little bit. And on one hand, I'm kind of glad that I did, because that's money that I didn't throw out the door. On the other hand, I would probably look at the 1.0 I'd probably look at the source code that was, released, and maybe possibly take the time to try to figure out how to build it and see if the game is anything worth modding, and maybe possibly I would write something for it, but I wouldn't hold my breath. It really depends on whether or not there's anything really to do in the game. And from what I understand, the biggest complaint people have had with Spacebase DF-9 to this point is that it lacks content. It just completely lacks any content, any reason to play it for more than half an hour or so. But it has potential. It just has no actual nothing to show for it right now. So that's the thing. Anyway, I'm sure someone in the community will probably pick it up and turn it into something different. Maybe they'll go and full on Star Trek on it. We'll get the Star Trek base building simulator we always wanted and never got. So in addition to all that, we've got, so with all the recent goings on with crowdfunded games failing and getting canceled, and I mean, games fail and cancel all the time, but usually it's from private investors, not from public like this. This is why it's sort of a weird situation that we find ourselves in, a very loud and rambly situation we find ourselves in. Given that, two additional things have happened this week that I think are of note. One is that Kickstarter has updated its terms of use, sort of. They haven't really updated the legalese of it, but they have changed it so that you can actually read it. It's actually in human readable form now, and I'll link you directly to their blog post with it. But what I've noted is that they're emphasizing more the responsibilities of the Kickstarter creators, right? And they're saying, hey, it is your responsibility to fulfill the terms of what you've put up on Kickstarter. And if you fail to do so, and then it gives specific examples of things that have failed, then here's some mitigations that you must do in good faith. You must, if there are any physical rewards, you must fulfill those physical rewards in good faith, to the best of your abilities. Obviously, you can't fulfill the physical reward of here's a finished game, but if you promise T-shirts or some other things, those should be fulfilled. Or there should be, an explanation as to why you can't fulfill them. A very good explanation as to why you can't fulfill them. Also, if there's, if refunds are requested, then you should be prepared to fulfill them, or explain why you can't. And then also, as part of the post-mortem of your project failing, it's the Kickstarter creator responsibility to specify how, what funds were collected and how they were actually used, and how much is left, if anything. And if anything's left, obviously, people can claim to that as refunds, and you can, take a proportion of what they put in as a refund and all that stuff. All that is good things. I mean, it's good that they're finally clarifying that a little bit more. They're putting it in human readable form. They also actually put on there in plain English, like, hey, if you don't follow these guidelines, you have basically opened yourself up to legal action by Kickstarter users. So I applaud the direction that they went with that, and making that more clear, because they have been very laissez-faire about it, and they still kind of are, from a legal perspective, very laissez-faire, because they don't want to get into the specifics of being sued by Kickstarter people and all that stuff. By Kickstarter backers, they kind of want to just say, hey, we're just a third-party middleman that's facilitating this transaction. The transaction is really between you and the creator, and they do that just so that they can try to stave off being sued by everybody and their grandmother. So I applaud the additional clarification that they've put on there. In addition to that, Chucklefish, the creators of Starbound, came out and sort of posted a blog post where they said, like, hey, based upon all these recent failures that we've been seeing around large crowdfunded indie projects, we just wanted to let you know where we stand financially. And according to them, they have enough money in the bank to fund 9 more years of Starbound, which means that's not to say it's going to take 9 more years for Starbound to be finished. What they're really saying is, if something happened and they couldn't get Starbound out, in any kind of reasonable time frame, if it got delayed again, they have enough money that they can keep on going as a company for about 9 years. So that is, those are good clarifications to come down. It's good to know that they're in a very healthy spot. Chucklefish has been they've been bearing the brunt of a lot of internet, I guess, double-sidedness. I don't know what to call it. A double personality, internet double personalityness, where you've got thousands of people who absolutely love everything you're doing, and tens of thousands of people that absolutely hate everything you're doing, even though and think that because they backed you, they can just hate on you with impunity, and they've been criticized for not releasing enough, or not, not releasing code as often as they should, and so they made steps to release nightly dev code. And then they're now criticized for releasing nightly dev code because it's breaking people's builds and stuff, that's the name of the game. If you're getting dev code, that's exactly what happens. It's gonna break your balls in 5 different in 5 different ways this Sunday. Trust me. This is why programmers like myself are very hesitant to release code before we feel good about it. I mean, every company I've worked at, there's always been that thing, you got this whole agile methodology that is the new hotness around, which basically dictates that you release early and often is basically the mantra of that. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It is better than the waterfall method that we were using, which was, get all the documentation, everything squared away before you do anything else, and then, and then 2 years later you'll have something that's that's in an early alpha state after you spent a year doing documentation. And there's still plenty of cases where waterfall is almost necessary, especially around life or death things, like, hey, I'm working on a radiation machine. Like, yeah, I think you really should know whether or not this thing's going to work and not give people lethal doses of radiation at random. So yeah, things like that, software for that, usually goes through a waterfall process because it is very necessary to have all those checks and balances in place. But for most other things like luxury software and whatnot and games, you're seeing a lot of this resurgence of the agile methodology, which says basically release code as soon as you can, release it on a constant basis, have a train schedule of it going out, and just follow that, and just release what you've got and just keep on doing that. And the problem with that has been a lot. It is true that you can release, you can do releases like that, but they are oftentimes very either small releases that don't have a whole lot of impact, or they are releases that may not have happened or probably shouldn't have happened. And that comes down to, you really have to have a structure in place where you're only releasing code when it's the developers in question are comfortable with releasing it. Sometimes people get ahead of themselves and they go, oh, just release it anyway. Even though if it's not what anybody wants, just release it anyway. We got to get it released. We got to get something released. So, ask for that and you shall receive. And the community asked for dev nightlies. Well, they asked for more frequent releases, which basically, translates to, okay, if you want more frequent releases and we're a small team, I guess you want access to our dev nightlies, which means you're going to be broken in 5 ways a Sunday. Even though we have automated testing for the most part, you're still going to run into regression issues. That's why we usually wait 3 weeks or 6 months in between releases, because we want to sit there and actually do regression testing to make sure that we haven't broken something else in the system that was fixed once before and now has been altered in ways that we couldn't predict. So for them, they've been getting lots of heat, lots of flack. They've been dealing with it. But it's also nice to know that they, unlike a lot of the other indie projects that we've been seeing, they actually, have been managing their money correctly and are in a good position to deliver on the game that they want to deliver, not the game that the money can afford. Which is a weird thing to say, but it's sort of an important point to be made. Oh, what else we got here? So that pretty much covers the indie funding apocalypse, dollar apocalypse or whatever that has been happening this week that we've been seeing. And you know, as a lot of these projects that were early on in the crowdfunding scene carry on, we're going to start to see more of this. My biggest fear is that we're going to see this with Star Citizen. Star Citizen is continuing to make money. Like I think they're up to $51 million. I think. I remember a few weeks ago reporting that they were like at 46 or 48 million, and now I think they're up to 51 million now, or very close to 51 million. Number one, I can't tell you what the hell people are buying. I assume they're buying in-game items and ships and stuff. I don't know. I plunked $50 down on it one time, and that was it. I haven't done anything else since then. It's been very hard to follow any updates because it's been kind of very noisy as far as updates go. Although they've toned it down a bit, I think, so it's actually a little bit easier, I guess, to keep up to date with some things. But they're doing a lot of this, like, fancy smanchy stuff that I can't really parse sometimes. Like they just did a video on a new ship that they've released that they're working on. It's like a Top Gear parody or something. I'm not even gonna link to it because it's not even worth your time to watch it. But it's just they're doing some weird stuff. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to do some community building, which is great. But I've played a little bit of the game as it is right now. The what was it? The arena module. I played a little bit of that. It handles terribly, and the frame rate was rather awful, and I wasn't even trying to record or anything like that. It was just the handling was just off, and nothing seemed to work right. And it's, for $51 million, I'm not really seeing anything come out of that looks decent yet. So I'm very, very concerned. I mean, I know the two things that concern me about is there's not a whole lot to show for what they've got as far as funding goes, which is to be expected. I mean, it is still early. They didn't have a whole lot to go on when they started the Kickstarter. It was one of those, you're going to fund us on things that we can't show you yet. You're going to fund us based on concept art, which is fine and well back in the day, but probably not going to float nowadays as far as crowdfunding goes with all the recent failures that we've seen. But with the ongoing, the project is so damn ambitious, I cannot see it possibly working. I really can't. I know they have multiple studios working on it and different talented developers working on it. I cannot see them fulfilling half of the vision that they had. I really can't. It's just, it doesn't, I'll be pleasantly surprised if they do. It doesn't seem physically possible. At least not anytime within the next 10 years. It may take them, they may release something next year that's like, hey, this is the first alpha and it's not going to look anything like what you want it. And then, 5 years down the line, release a game that actually is maybe 2/3 of what they've promised on. I don't see them. I think a lot of the promises that they made, they're going to end up going back and saying, no, we meant this. This is going to be for after the 1.0 release. This is going to be content we work on afterwards, and this is going to be content we work on afterwards. And they, to be fair, they've got enough money that they should be able to continue working on Star Citizen for several years after the initial release of it. But yeah, my fear is that is, the biggest crowdfunded thing ever is going to be a big failure. And if that happens, we're going to see all these video game funding platforms just die out. I mean, Kickstarter itself is not going to die out because there are plenty of other projects on Kickstarter that are not video game related. But you're going to see, I think, the early access stuff on Steam is going to start to fall behind and fall by the wayside, and probably going to start to see Kickstarter games become a thing of the past if that fails. And there's starting to be a lot of backlash on it now, and rightfully so. There are people who are buying early access things and funding Kickstarter games who really have no business doing that. They have not done the due diligence necessary to make a good decision there. They just saw something that was flashy and awesome, and they were like, I gotta have this. I want access to the alpha. And then they see the alpha and it's not flashy and awesome, and they start loudly moaning and groaning, and then 6 months later it's still an alpha and they're still moaning and groaning even more, and it's like, guys, seriously, it takes a long time to do it right. It's like, you probably are not the person you probably should not have funded this at all. You probably should have waited. And I'll circle back with Chucklefish here. And Chucklefish, on their website, when they were doing the initial crowdfunding for this, they said, in plain English, like, you should not, if you're not used to playing games that are not finished, you probably should not fund this game at this time. They were very, very clear about that, and yet they still get a lot of crap about not working fast enough, or things don't look the way they look. They promise this and they're doing something else, and it's like, you guys really probably shouldn't have funded it in the first place. I think you got a little bit of a dupe there going on. But anyway, I digress. That was a long-winded tangent right there. That hopefully made some kind of sense. I'm not quite sure if it did or not at this point, but there you go. And I did actually, what kills me is I had a bunch of other things here to talk about. Even something as far as Chucklefish is concerned. They announced a couple weeks ago another game that they're working on in addition to Starbound. But I guess I could probably talk about it real fast. They announced last week a game, Chucklefish did, a game called Wayward Tide, which is going to be a top-down pirate-themed game. It's 2 to 4 player co-op, where you basically, you are a pirate and you're teamed up with other players, and you get to basically screw other players out of booty, out of loot, or work with them, well, one or the other. So they announced Wayward Tide. It's a separate 4-person team working on it, so it's not going to affect Starbound's development. But that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.